Welcome back to the Built for Profit podcast, guys. I am so thrilled today to have Mr. Jeff Skinner with Skinner Lawns on the call. Man, it's going to be a fantastic call. Honestly, quick background on Jeff. Jeff and I knew each other at Auburn, War Eagle. Tough season right now to be a football fan, but hey, we're going to get through it. But Jeff's honestly just one of the most genuine guys I've ever met. Just loves people. I think he just has a heart for people and a heart for serving people. And him and I have actually been meeting, just kind of walking through his business. And it's been such an honor of mine just to kind of see what he's building, how he's serving people in his community in the Jacksonville, Florida area. So Jeff, number one, man, welcome to the podcast. Super fired up for you to be here. And then number two, would love for you just to kind of tell us who Jeff is, man. How did you even get into the landscape world? How'd you get to where you're at today?
Yeah, thank you so much, Austin. Thanks for having me, man. I've been looking forward to this and this time with you, and it's really cool what you're doing, man. I mean, you've helped my business just even in the last 90 days. I mean, been incredible to learn from you and your background expertise, and just to have a shot at this, man. The podcast, this might be one and done for me, but
One
hey,
of many, dude. This is the first of many, dude. Let's go.
go. All right, this is gonna be good. So yeah, man. So again, my name is Jeff Skinner. I'm the owner of Skinner Lawns. We're a full service landscape maintenance company here in Jacksonville, Florida. So Northeast Florida is kind of right here where we're at. That's our territory. And born and raised here, born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida. And part of our family has a long history here in Jacksonville, going back to late 1800s. And
Oh, wow.
so a big family, and every Thanksgiving we circle up and count off, and there's, 100 something Skinners, surrounded around having a sharing a meal together. So just a lot of different businesses, service businesses, real estate here in Jacksonville, Florida. So, and for my family and our side of a business was really, my dad grew a wholesale nursery business, Skinner Nurseries, and I got to watch him, grow and expand that over, in the 90s and and early 2000s, and grew it from, just kind of a tree farm, tree business to wholesale distribution, from right, kind of just south of here up to Maryland and out to Texas. So the branch that I grew up, with my buddies in high school in the summer months, we were loading landscape material in the back of landscape contractors' trucks and trailers, and really kind of grew a love and a passion in that time, and those summer months for greenery and for this industry. And so that's kind of what gave birth to, the real love and the real heart for this. And what really led me to, Auburn was their ag school is really, really strong in their horticulture program. And so those two kind of went hand in hand. And obviously at Auburn, man, just building lifelong relationships with awesome people like yourself, Austin, and where I got to meet my wife, Caroline. She's from Noonan, Georgia. And really it was those, the college years, I just grew a ton in my faith. Yep. And really kind of caught, the gospel really started to kind of catch fire, in my heart, in my life. And when I was senior year, when I was kind of applying of what's next and looking around different cities, different positions and businesses, I just landed on this family connection up in DC, in McLean, Virginia. And they brought me on, hired me to run their, their youth ministry program. So I did that for about 6 or 7 years. And honestly, man, looking back, those years were super formative for me. I was just surrounded by incredible leaders, who really were willing to take the time to invest, in me and pour into me. And honestly, it was those times they taught me about how to recruit and keep good talent, how to build and sustain a good company, a good culture within an organization, and I'm able to carry that into my business now. So, just a lot of critical components necessary for I would say any really good organization. And then after, 6 or 7 years, my wife and I had 2 kids at the time. We just kind of did some soul searching and decided to move back home to Jacksonville. And really it was kind of a hitting a crossroads a little bit, right around COVID time, just before that, where my dad and I put our heads together, and my dad is kind of, he's retiring, and so he just wants to, really kind of spend this time with his son, which is a huge blessing to me. Just,
Yeah.
kind of teaching me some of the business side. I've learned more about business from him in the last 5 or 6 years than I have, my entire life. So everything kind of converged, all the roads kind of met at Skinner Lawns. And, from one of the big things for us was, recurring revenue. I mean,
Yeah.
just a business recurring revenue, not starting, every month at zero, but kind of seeing the way that recurring revenue can build and compound
Yeah.
upon itself is a beautiful engine and machine. And then again, going back to what I said in the beginning, just that passion for greenery, for working outside, to see things, to be able to transform a property and to see it become beautiful, and which is extremely, gratifying just within a few days span.
Yeah.
It's an awesome thing. And then just to be local, family owned, service based business. I mean, nothing flashy. We're willing to do the simple things well, and
Yeah.
kind of have our footprint here. So yeah, that's where we're at, man. A little over 5 years in business now, and it's been it's been a great ride so far. So looking forward to the years ahead.
Yeah, Jeff, I love this story so much because I'm a huge believer that the Lord never wastes a minute of your life. And I think the fact that you even like touch point in the summer times, you were loading up landscape material on some trucks, and then you had this whole, season of your life where you're learning from leaders and how to treat people and how to serve people and how to like retain talent, I think is what you said, which is like such a skill in itself. And then going into now those things merging together to now, run and own a landscape business. I think it's just such a beautiful thing. So, I mean, I've seen obviously when with your interaction, I've even, following you on Instagram as well. I get to see the way that you, treat your employees, the culture that you're building, the parties that y'all have. I think y'all had a Dunkin' booth at one time that I saw. Just
Yeah,
love,
dude.
I love Jeff, what you're yeah, man, I love it, dude. It's just so cool to hear those things, man. That's really, really neat. Well,
Mm.
cool. Well, so kind of coach us up a little bit on, 5 years into business. What's kind of your bread and butter? I know you and I have talked about this before, but for the listeners, what's your bread and butter? Are you mainly maintenance? Are you mainly like installs, hardscapes, lighting? Like, what is y'all's kind of bread and butter of how you're serving people in the Jacksonville area?
Yeah, man. I mean, really our bread and butter is our maintenance programs. I mean, our annual programs where we're consistently, on the property weekly during the growing season and biweekly in the off season. That's billed out on a monthly basis. So really to kind of have those as kind of the really our foundation, our base that we want to continue to build on. And then we kind of leverage those relationships and those customers for any enhancement work, right? So that's kind of another side to our business. So if they want, you know, plant material that's dead that needs to be changed out, or sod that needs to be replaced, or mulch or pine straw, or new trees planted, or irrigation overhauls, or you name it. So anything that the property needs in terms of enhancement work, and just to kind of beautify the place, the property. I think that's another huge side that we leverage as kind of our ancillary enhancement side. And then we're continuing to grow and irrigation, man. I mean, as we're out in these commercial properties, we do some irrigation in house, but we're mostly subbing that out, and I think we're looking to continue to expand just because we've got a huge need for that
Right.
from our properties, just demanding it. So, and that could be an incredible revenue stream to come, but. I'd say we're probably about 70% commercial and about
Yeah.
30% residential as it stands now. That's kind of our mix.
Yeah, I love it. So tell me so if you can think out into the future, 5, 10 years, Skinner Lawns, continuing to serve the Jacksonville area, what does the company look like 5 to 10 years out? What are you focused on right now?
Man, I mean, I'd say in 5 years or so, I'd say, I'd like to see us doing a lot of, honestly, what we're doing now. So the look and the feel is similar. It's just, it's just more, it's multiplied out. So we're bigger. I mean, I talked a minute ago about, expanding that irrigation division. I'd say a more robust kind of landscape construction division. And
Yeah.
then probably just by nature of the serving multiple properties and kind of having, a larger market share in Northeast Florida, just having account managers that are just constantly, seeking and keeping accounts
Right.
and taking care of what the things that matter most, which is just developing that relationship and being there for their needs. And the other thing too is I'd be interested to see, what it would be like to kind of take our model and then, to test it like in a different city. So,
Yeah.
shooting up the coast just north of us to Savannah maybe, or, opening a branch in Orlando or Tampa, somewhere kind of nearby, just to kind of say like, hey, we've defined, like, we have built a repeatable sales process. We've learned how to see and protect profit by our property, by
Yeah.
property. We've developed leaders so that, not every decision is dependent on me.
Yeah.
And so now we're ready to take that to another city and kind of see how that can build and grow and
Yeah, that's good.
kind of divide and conquer. Yeah, man. I mean, we're still, but we're still learning those things. I mean, we're still learning that about ourselves, kind of who we are.
Yeah,
And that just takes time. It takes a process,
for
takes a
sure.
lot of, honestly, like, failing and
Yeah.
learning from failure and being like, all right, that didn't work. So how can we learn from it? And how can we, continue to grow and be better on the other side from it?
Yeah, that's so good, Jeff. I was actually just talking to a good friend of mine who runs an HVAC company, and he basically had that same mentality. Honestly, it was like discipline is the way I look at it. He was disciplined enough to stay in one place for 11 years. So he started the business in 2015. He's celebrating his 11th year right now, and they just launched their second location in another area that's not within a 10-mile radius of who they're currently serving. Just because
Mhm.
he was like, "Man, we have so many processes still, so much to get ironed out," and a lot of it, like you said, just takes time. It kinda reminds me, everybody knows Chick-fil-A, but it reminds me a little bit of the famous Dan Q Cathy quote, which basically comes in the boardroom, and he's everybody's talking about how do we grow, how do we expand, and he slams his hand down on the table and he says, "If we get better, our customers will demand that we get bigger." Right,
Mhm.
so it's like the
Mhm.
let's focus on getting the better moment first before we spread our wings too thin and all of a sudden we're not delivering what we wanna deliver
Wow.
outside the walls, which I think is a powerful comments.
That's
Man, I
really
love that so much. That's so cool. Well, tell us about a little bit, Jeff, from your standpoint, like, what do you feel like you have momentum in right now? I mean, I know you have a heart for people, so what do
Mhm.
you feel like is kinda like 5 years in, this is where I feel like we got momentum behind this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, like, I mean, I feel like in business you can be really busy and yet not really accomplishing, what you're at your core, you're really supposed to be, good at and have momentum in, and you're committed to it, right? So,
Yeah,
I mean, I always tell my team, like, we remind ourselves of our three, what I call our three uniques.
that's good.
And that is one that we communicate, right? That we answer the phones, which is, I feel like, is rare, this day and age. Number two, we're reliable. So you can't fake showing up. I mean, the glass is either going to be mowed or it's not, right? So, um, that being consistent, man, and being reliable, like knowing that our customer, at the beach or wherever is like, Skinner Lawns, come hell or high water, will be here at 10 a.m. on Thursday. And sure
Yeah,
enough, like so that's just big.
yeah,
And then the third one is just the professionalism, right? So just our guys are in uniform, our trucks and trailers are clean and professional looking. Our guys, look the customer in the eye and the way that we talk to them. All of the little details that go into the business, I think, the details matter. And so, I would say, like, what we have momentum in is just our people and our retention, man. I would
yeah, that's good.
say our ability, I think that there's a direct correlation between, employee retention and property retention, right? So,
That's
and
good.
I've talked about this. It's
Yeah,
like, the worst thing ever is, having to rehire guys, find new field guys. But man, we have just committed, like, from early on, just to really treat our guys really well, to kind of have them buy into a company culture. I think, and to pay them well, to keep them, and that goes directly into really how they handle the property. Like, and I mean, they're willing to go out of their way to make sure that the properties, look like near perfect. And that's huge for us. And I think, we do some pretty unique things in the way that we kind of lead our guys. So one of them is open book management. So our guys, they know how much revenue a property generates, and they get a commission bonus based on,
Love that.
on that number. So we want them to think like owners and not employees. And
Yeah.
so we tell them, hey, this truck, and trailer, from the bumper to the back license plate on the trailer, this is yours, and this is, in a way, your business, and you manage it. You manage the equipment, you manage your crew, the quality of the property yourself, and they know, their pay is tied to, that property. And
Yeah.
so to lose it is not good. So it's kind of a good, like, synergy amongst all of us. And you just got to be committed to, let go of the ones that aren't bought into your culture, and to
Yeah.
find and to keep the ones that really are, and just let that kind of build upon itself. I had our best guy, man. I'll never forget. I mean, he came to me one morning and said, hey, I'm moving to Texas. I'm gonna go drive trucks. And so I said, all right, man. Well, let me at least give me a shot to see if we can work something out where you could stay. And so, I found ways to kind of give him some different responsibilities, and I knew this guy was good, and I wanted him to be on our team for as long as I possibly could. So ended up finding responsibilities for him to increase his pay, and also paid for him to start English courses. He was, could only speak Spanish. And turns out, man, he ended up sticking around with us. He's still with us, been with us for now 4 or 5 years. And our best guy, he trains our guys on how to do the job, and just, and now he's gonna be fluent in English probably within the next 8, 12 months. So, I think those are the kind of things that, when you see a guy like him, giving them the opportunity to achieve the American dream, is
Yeah.
just so cool and so powerful, like at your core, that you're able to provide that to these guys. But, they sense that, and they see that from you, and it motivates them to want to buy in even more, treat the properties as if it's their own, treat the customers, with tons of respect and customer service. And so, I do think that, I would say we serve our clients through our employees. And I
Yeah.
think
So good.
a lot of companies kind of miss that a little bit, where we're just continuing to kind of double down on it.
Yeah, that's so good, Jeff. I've heard said over and over and over again, happy employees create happy customers.
Mm.
And so, like, I love that you're living that out and getting to see that. And so I'm curious, from your just over 5 years of experience doing this, and obviously with the ministry background, what percent, if you can kind of, or let's just talk this out for a second, because I want to let owners kind of hear from you. How much of it is just like in the person before they even show up to your company, that, like, for the potential to buy into your culture, live with an ownership mentality, like, want to do do what their work with pride, like, want to invest in the people around them. How much is that something that you've had to, like, develop and train, versus how much is something that they just showed up with that mentality inside of them to be like, this is why I want to keep this all star, because he's just self motivated.
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I would say it's got to be, a large percentage of it is just, it's kind of in them, right?
Yeah,
It's just, where they learned it before, it was instilled in them or whatever. And when you can find those guys, and those guys are like gold, right? And so, and then they're gonna kind of recruit, and you always got to incentivize and do bonuses for, bringing in, more guys, or referral programs, or, however you'd go about it. But to bring in more, other guys that they know are similar to them. And, because they don't, what's great about the commission based structure is, like, these crew leaders, I mean, if anything is dragging them down by dead weight, it's just more, it's taking them more time, where if they know, if they can get through the property, it's commission based. So,
yeah,
it's the pay is the same, whether they're there for a minute or an hour. They know that as long as they're doing the jobs to make it look good, but they don't want to have any dead weight pulling them, that's holding
yeah,
them back. And so I would just say, man, they want to find guys that are more like themselves, and they
yeah,
kind of know, they know what our standard is for, like, quality, quality people that are, I mean, look at the three uniques, right? I mean, what are we after in an employee? We're after someone who can communicate, someone who's reliable, and someone who's going to be professional. So
Yeah.
how can I offer that and sell that to our customers, if we're not holding a standard of ourselves to that as well?
Yeah, Jeff, that is so good. I love and honestly, your structure this is why I think it's so vastly important for owners to think about commission-based or pay structures because it has the ability for your A players to rise to the top and bring everybody along with them and cut out the people that aren't gonna rise to their level of, like, standard or expectations, right?
Mm,
And so I think there's so much power when you do that because in reality, when you think about businesses, obviously there's a lot of different ways to value people, but if you're trying to only value people while keeping their pay extremely low, you're gonna lose those A players because the nature of the business is people receive value based on what their pay is to the business, right?
mhm,
And I
that's
just
right.
love the way that you have structured that to retain your A players and keep them motivated, and honestly, it helps manage the entire crew that way too, which I think is so powerful. Okay, so
100%.
on the flip side of that, what do you feel like is the thing that's like the hole in the boat or the thing that you're like focused on right now to fix to kinda get to the next level in business?
Yeah, I mean, it's good that you mentioned that because we've talked a lot about, the good things, the stuff that gets you fired up about being a business owner. And the truth is, it's not always sunshine and roses. I
Yeah,
mean, owning a business is hard, man. And sometimes I really feel like I'm like in the, in the corner, a dead end of a back alley, and I'm in the middle of a knife fight, and I just have to like fight my way out of it, or like, and I'm just looking within, like, hey, Jeff, do you have what it takes, or do you not? And it challenges you, and it challenges, I guess, any type of complacency that might be in you. I mean, it's just like, hey, are you going to push this thing? Because no one else is going to push it as hard as as you're willing to take it. And
yeah,
so, I think that we've re-examined our sales strategy a lot over the last, gosh, I'd say 6, 8 months. I mean, we were, when you talk about, just the importance of prioritizing profit, well, the opposite of that is just to chase big revenue numbers, and kind of pad the stats, thinking that you're the cat's meow, and your business is successful. And so, we were running after these huge properties that have high revenue numbers, and our guys were just getting lost on the property, honestly, and like just eating into our gross profit on those properties. And it was like, this is ridiculous, it's not working. We're going to kind of basically do a deep dive into who we are, what we're best at, and what customer, who is our end customer. And so that kind of led us to like, all right, well, who are those accounts that have been with us for a long time, where our guys, we know they're profitable. And so we've kind of doubled down a new strategy on, how to target and go after those, mainly through like relationships and referrals,
yeah,
rather than just kind of like, getting something dropped in from Google ads, and we're competing against like, the big national brands. And it's
yeah,
just like, this is just, this is ridiculous. We know what we're good at. We're going to
yeah,
stick to it. And so I'd say, kind of the sales strategy is huge. And then the other one, I'm sure a lot of other business owners, face is just cash flow. I mean, you put a bunch of work into a property and an account, you're kind of ready to get paid for that. And then for whatever reason, the customer's like, hey, I, we're running into some funding delays. I can't pay you right now. And just
yeah,
things that are completely out of my control. I mean, I've controlled the whole process of carrying the job through based on our contract, everything. So, I mean, you and I, as we continue to meet, I'm sure we'll tackle some of those problems. But all you can do is all you can do. You can just
yeah,
refer back to your contract. You have those things in place that are in your contract that says, hey, this is what it means when we're not getting paid. But at the end of the day, I've already paid out, all the labor for that. I've already paid out the material costs for all that job, for the job. And, I think you run into some issues with that because you're trying to grow. And if cash flow is suffering, then, it puts everything more in a crunch.
for sure. That's a great point, Jeff. I think so honestly, this kind of well, one quick comment on that because one of the things you and I have talked about before, and I love that you bring up the standards that you want to live by, the three uniques. I think that's so powerful because that creates the standards of how you operate and serve people. And that ultimately is what's going to carry your business way into the future, right? I think one of the things that I try to talk with business owners, and you and I have talked about this, is also creating standards on with your customers of like what does cash flow look like? Like how often are you getting paid before your guys ever even show up versus 30 days after, whatever that looks like. So I think there's power also just for any business in any specifically service-based industry
Mm.
is to think through what are my standards now that I have standards of like how we show up, that we're never going to be late, all the things that we live by. How are my standards that I set with the customer to say like, hey, you can depend on us because we live by these standards. So therefore, this is how we get paid to make sure that we can live by those standards. And
Yeah.
so, and once again, industry is kind of different, and you and I have talked about that a little bit, but I think there's power in at least putting some creative thought behind how do you do that so you don't run into the issues like you mentioned, Jeff. Because the worst thing, I feel your pain, man, because I've been there before as a business owner as well, and just saying like we've paid everything out to go do the job, and now the customer just literally won't write the check. It's just like how are we supposed to survive? It's just a
Yeah.
hard place to be in for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it is, man. No, that's good stuff. Really good. I mean, I would say I mean, part of that, man, just on a practical level is kind of embracing the awkwardness
Yeah,
that is more of just like a relational thing. Like,
for
hey, thank you for approving this quote. We're going to collect payment now. And that's just the standard that we hold ourselves to. We know that you trust us. We've talked about this, and embracing the awkwardness of that conversation is so worth it, because what it means is it allows you the freedom to kind of put wind in your sails as a business to perform that job, and to do it well, and to honestly go probably, motivates you to go above and beyond, knowing that, hey, we've got the cash flow there, and we're ready to knock this thing out of the park.
Yeah, it's so good, Jeff. And one other comment that I just want to make there, just for people here as well, just because when you have to play the game where you're reliant on the customer to pay you whenever they pay after you've done the work, now all of a sudden you're having to steal money from other people that are paying on time to continue to keep the ball rolling in the business.
Mm.
And therefore, it's impossible to ever prioritize profit because you're just stealing, what's the phrase, stealing Peter to pay Paul or whatever, because you're having to keep your guys moving and the machine running because so and so that we did a project for still hasn't paid us yet. And so it's just a hard game to play. And I fully agree with you. And the beauty of it, Jeff, I think, is when you set those expectations up front from day one, people will agree to it. It's just about being confident and setting that expectations because you live by certain standards. So
Mm.
anyway, fun thing to talk about. But okay, well, real quick, Jeff, from your standpoint, outside of cash flow, I know we could probably go into an hour long conversation on that. What do you feel like, if you could put yourself in your shoes 5 years ago or 4 years ago, kind of saying yes to a bunch of revenue coming in, what's something you wish you would have known about profit or prioritizing profit that you maybe learned along the way?
Yeah, I mean, again, we touched on this, but like, I mean, it's so easy to fall into the trap of thinking, higher revenue just is equal to success, and higher revenue and more trucks and more rigs and more this and that is really what, how you flex your muscles.
Yeah.
And but deep down, you're literally not making any money. I mean, and so there's plenty of businesses that are operating out of there. And I've heard it said like, why, why make 10% on 4 million when you can make 20% on 2 million,
Yeah.
so you're busy at 4 million, and, your things are running around all over the place, and you're making 10% when you could do half the amount of work, right? And achieve the same results. So, I would say, I mean, dude, it's the name of this podcast. I mean, to have a business that is built for profit from a large scale, I think you got to get down into the minute scale, the down to like the very truck level, right?
Yeah.
So examining every one of our rigs as its own business and as its own P&L, and tracking labor. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've just picked up this big account and we're just cramming guys in trucks thinking like it'll all work out in the end.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that's not the case. you know, you're breaking even on the property, and those, customers end up slow paying you, and you're just like, I am about to lose my mind. So, I think all of this concerted effort that we have put into what we call our truck metrics. So every week we we have our payroll in front of us. We know which guys were, on each rig for that previous week. And then we kind of have, I kind of have the person that runs our payroll, the my operations manager who knows, is assigning the crews for each week. He puts in the labor amounts into our spreadsheet, and it's kind of a shared thing. So it's
Yeah.
constantly in front of us from like a management team side to know, what is our gross profit, percentage on each crew from each individual week and then month to month. And we kind of have, basically we're building a score. We have a scoreboard like in our shop. So that's just awesome because the guys can, we kind of set a standard for the percentage that, that we want to achieve and be at. And we're starting to kind of build like more of a bonus program for our guys, if they achieve that. And it also just creates competition. Like the guys are like, I'm at X%, man. This guy leaving the same time as me, coming back the same time as me to the shop is, he's beating me. What's going on? So then what does that allow us to do? We start to talk about really good things on a practical level. Well, why are you spending this much time at this property? How long are you taking for breaks? How long, and you start to kind of like unearth some very important things that I think end up, and then what's so neat is they start to see the weeks after those conversations, that percentage gets better and better. And it's just, everybody's kind of excited and wins. And I mean, that alone, man, that shift as a company to do that and to track that, I would say is just a total X factor in my business over the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, that is so good, man. I'm so glad you explained that because it is that's applicable to any business owner, right? I think when you can literally get your team to have buy-in to a scoreboard that they understand and know what it takes to win on that scoreboard, it's gonna raise love that you just said, like, not only do they know what it takes to win the scoreboard, but now it forces them to bring up the conversations of how to improve to the details on even on a per property basis or per truck basis or per route basis. So I think there is just so much power in the clarity behind a really good thought out scoreboard and how people can have buy-in and understanding of what that scoreboard represents.
Mm.
So, yeah, that's super good, man. I love it.
And
All right, well, Jeff well, go
it's
ahead.
also like, I mean, it's also things that are sometimes not even in their control. I mean, you got to look at price. I mean,
Yeah,
are we pricing a property appropriately? And then if not, if the numbers aren't there, then we got to look deep within ourselves and go, hey, okay, we need to, we need to go ahead and put in a price increase and be aggressive on price. And if they drop us, they drop us. But we're trying to
yep.
get to that percentage number and just be incredibly kind of stubborn in doing that.
Yeah, it's so good, Jeff. I love it. Yeah, I love that. So outside of labor, I think that's probably the best metric that you're tracking. Is there anything else outside of the per payroll labor and the per truck basis, some kinda like key performance indicator that you're tracking currently?
Yeah, I mean, I would say this is something that we're kind of starting to build in, but it would be on a, instead of a truck by truck basis, like a per property basis. So we're able to see like how much time guys are spending on a property. Is it priced right? I think another thing too is like, just for our enhancements project, like we do a really good job, evaluating our profitability on, the maintenance side. But I think on the enhancement side, we know the margins are really good there. We just have to, really kind of improve upon the way that we do our tracking there. So a lot of things that, we need to kind of continue to grow and develop. And so I'd say, those two are probably at the forefront for kind of the next step to improve our profitability and to know what are the standards that we need to constantly hold ourselves to. And when we fall short of those, we learn from it and go, all right, like what can we do differently in the next job or, whatever.
Yeah, it's so good, Jeff. I love that. Well, cool, man. Well, as we wrap up, is there anything that we haven't talked about today that just kind of fires you up or something that's on your heart?
Mm, Owning a business that's built for profit, man, that fires me up. Built for profit. Isn't that the name of this podcast?
Heck
Come on.
yeah, baby. I love it.
Profitability fires me up. Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know. I just think like, I guess some of my background in ministry and thinking about the gospel, and I think for me, it's like how to apply some of those really good things that are true of the gospel and what God's called us to business. Like, I just think sometimes, it's easy to think like, Sunday is kind of God's day, and then Monday through Friday is just like it's just work that then like you make money to then give, and that helps with Sunday. But to see like your Monday through Friday as days of worship as much as Sunday, and especially the way that you carry yourself in business. I think of a couple for me. It's just like with my team, like putting boundaries around my team so they can have a healthy work rest balance. And I think that's huge and key. And then for myself as well. But I mean, just the way that we plant a tree or a shrub with excellence, because God is a God of excellence. And like we talked about before, man, just seeing my guys like achieve the American dream by the way they benefit from the hard work that everyone's putting in. And then lastly, just like, I don't know, I mean, having integrity in the way that you deal with situations, and who you decide to partner with, like who we decide to partner with in our business, like the way
Yeah,
that, they carry themselves and hold themselves to a high standard. I think there's just a lot there that kind of gets back to like, all right, what does it look like to really make, Jesus king over this business?
that is so good, Jeff. I love that you're bringing this up because one of the things I continue to think about all the time as we build our business, and I know you do it as well, that business is ministry, and it's this double-edged sword, which I think is so powerful, right? So the first edge of that sword is that you get to interact with people that may or may not ever walk in the walls of a church because you're serving them through your business, or somebody needs a job and they're showing up to your business to pay bills at home, right? So now you get to all of a sudden be interacting with people just by default of the convenience of the business to go have an impact on them for what Jesus wants to happen in their life. And
Mm.
then secondly, the other side of the sword is that when you operate with margin in your business, so you're creating profit in your business, that overflow of the business has the opportunity to fund things that does even more stuff for the kingdom, right?
Yeah.
And so the way I love thinking back to even when you're creating margin in your business, it's literally the principle of why God created the Sabbath, right? Because like he knew that all of us work 7 days in a row, that we would burn out and not be able to do anything because we don't have a margin in our life, right?
Yeah.
And so like the ability to operate with profit in your business is just like resting on the Sabbath. It propels you forward to have even greater impact because now you have the margin in your life to go do that. And I love thinking about that because like when you operate with margin or profit in your business, it gives you creativity to go do things that you wouldn't have been able to do otherwise because you have the money now to go do it, to pay your people better, or wow your customers even better, or have the things to grow into another market or invest in something that's going to get you to the next level in business, but ultimately has the ability to just push you forward to have greater impact of what you're called to do as a business owner.
Yeah,
And I
that's cool.
think it's just such a beautiful thing. And I love your mentality, Jeff, of just continuing to think like business is ministry. And I'm going to
Mm.
go out Monday through Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and just keep doing what Jesus called me to do, which is a powerful
Yeah.
thing.
Amen to that, bro. It's awesome.
I love it, Jeff. All right. Well, if people want to know more about you, Skinner Lawns, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, I mean, website, skinnerlawns.com. We got some stuff going on Instagram. Um, what what did that Indiana coach, what did he say? Google me?
Google me. Jeff's a winner. Just
If
Google
you if you Google me, you will not find me, so do not Google me. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, just, I feel like we're trying to kind of tell the story of our growth. And so, kind of come along with us as we share things and customer testimonials and stories from our guys or whatever, just on our, on Instagram and Facebook, really. So, those are some good spots. And yeah, man, it's good. Thank you so much for this. Seriously, it's been a real pleasure, Austin, and I've learned it, man. I've loved it, and I've learned a ton from you. So, yeah, very very grateful, man.
Well, Jeff, I appreciate you saying that, and I just want to give a shout out that anybody that hears this in just in the state of Florida, use Jeff as your landscaper. Obviously, I love you, Jeff. It's you're a man of character. I love the way that you're building this business. I mean, Skinner Lawns is going to be doing powerful things forever into the future, man. So just super super grateful for you, and I want anybody that's listening to say like. He is a man of integrity and he should use their business because he's going to show up and live out those three uniques and continue to have impact on people. And it's gonna be awesome, man. So thanks so much for being willing to join the podcast.
Yeah, man. Thank you, bro. Really appreciate it.